Welcome to the first video in the Easy Copywriting series. If you're watching this on YouTube, the rest of it you can find from a link below. What I'm going to do is an overview of what I'm going to cover and just quickly say why I'm going to cover it and what happens. And the first thing with copywriting is you need to actually realise that everything you do on the web is copywriting. If you're creating written content, it really is that simple. But we tend to think copywriting is only sales letters. It isn't. It applies equally to any post you put on your blog or your website, anything you put up as an article on an article site. If you do a guest post, it applies there. If you do a forum post, it applies there. Certain aspects you may not go into as much detail in some of those, but you're still going to apply all the principles we talk about in this course, and if you start applying them, especially starting with the headlines one, you'll find that things just go through the roof, because you'll just naturally attract more views to whatever it is you're writing. So, starting with headlines and titles, they are the most critical part. Think about all those emails in your inbox, all the ones you look at and automatically delete because the title or the subject line is rubbish. Think about the results you get when you go to Google. You'll get between 7 and 10 organic results and anything up to 11 paid for adverts. Now you're not going to click through all roughly 20 of those. You will actually visually look at them. Google will help by bolding the words that you've searched for, and it does that to, well, pretty much prove that it's done its job right. And you'll glance at the different titles. Typically, if you're like me, you'll ignore the paid for ones most of the time because I'd much rather go with the real results, but sometimes I'll go back to the paid for ones. And either way, you'll look at the title, and then you'll look at, it's not quite a subheading on an advert, but it's very, very similar. It's the description below it. But treat it as a subheading, because your sales page, once you've got the title worked out, needs a subheading. Not so critical in a blog post. Obviously you haven't got room in a tweet, and it doesn't necessarily apply to a Facebook advert, but in a sales letter, definitely a subheading, and sometimes in other things. And subheadings through the article itself, yes, because what they do is they allow a visual skim to happen, and the logic is that your actual sales letter or your post or whatever else it happens to be you should be able to get all the information from the main headline and then the subheadings, a bit like you can see from the bullet points on this page. And actually in a main page for the content, bullet points work a treat as well, because they give you a very quick skim, and if this was a sales page, I'd alternately bold these lines. So if I do that very quickly for the first couple, you'll be able to see how visually it looks better. So that's, if it was a sales letter, that's what I'd do within it, because it just does that, and those would turn to probably ticks. But once you've done the headline and the subheadings, the actual main content becomes relatively easy, because it backs everything else up, and you've got a paragraph or two to write about each of the subheadings. Fantastic, very, very easy. And if that's too difficult, create subheadings so that you're only writing 1 or 2 paragraphs on each section, and that makes the job of writing the main sales letter an order of magnitude easier, because almost anyone can. It's like writing an email, very quick reply email to anything, and you just send it. You just you tap out an email reply in a minute or so, or tap out a text reply even quicker than that. It's a bit longer than a text on a mobile phone. It's generally speaking longer than a tweet, but it's about what you'd put on a Facebook page. If you do that on each of the points in your subheadings, writing the actual sales letter becomes really, really easy. The main page content, as written, the viewpoint is from the reader's what's in it for me. And what that means is literally that. You need to put yourself in the viewpoint of the person reading your page. And you need to ask the question, everything you write really, and this does become second nature after a while. The first few times you do it you'll think, ugh, but after a while it works nicely. And the trick is, what's in it for me? Well, it comes in black, so what? But if it comes in matte black because that looks cool, then maybe. And you can see that all the time in special edition phones and special edition anything else's. It's just very much, you're not selling the features. You're not selling that it's got a whatever it is gigahertz processor nowadays on a computer, because who really cares? It's fast enough anyway. Even the slowest one that you can buy is more than fast enough for anyone's needs, unless they're a uber geek, or you're buying something trendy, but that's a different reason. If you're not sure how to do it, look at how Apple differentiate their computers. They're several times more expensive than a Windows computer, even though they do pretty much the same thing. Or their phones, again, they're more expensive than an Android device or whatever, or even a Windows device nowadays. And they do the same thing. They make phone calls, they send texts, they browse the web, they run apps, probably the same apps. But Apple have differentiated themselves, and they haven't done that by features. In fact, most Apple freaks would be, sorry to call them freaks, most Apple fanatics, let's call it that one, would be really happy with their device, but they're not going to reel off, oh, it's got a blah 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 processor, it runs on they'll probably know the operating system if they've had the joys of downloading a new one, but otherwise they won't know or care. And they know it connects to iTunes and does all the other things it needs to. So that's the what's in it for me, and it's the seamlessness of it. It's the fact that you don't have to be computer literate to use it, and you'll be able to, with a bit of thought, whatever it is you're selling, whatever it is you're writing about, you need to come up with the same kind of thing. Then I've written a call to action is essential. It's pointless having a sales page, and again that applies to near enough anything. Possibly tweets are an exception, but even those contain links, so probably not. Facebook posts, pages, okay, you might be celebrating something, so that doesn't have a call to action, but near enough anything else does. Certainly if it's your business page it should do, even if it's just, well, click here and find out more. But any kind of call to action, if it's a sales letter, pure sales letter, then obviously you're going to write, buy it now, get your special price, get these bonuses if you buy now, or whatever else you decide to include in that. If it's a blog page or a post elsewhere or whatever, find some way of encouraging people to click through to more information. Sign up to your list is ideal. And the other thing with sales letters is graphics are optional. Historically, the ones you used to see in newspapers didn't necessarily have graphics. I mean, classified ads never did, because they're lineage, they're just type. But some of the best and longest lasting adverts in newspapers and direct mail have next to no graphics in them, and the web is actually very, very close to a direct mail medium. It gets the same kind of response rates, it works near enough the same way, and we'll talk about that in some of the later videos. So that's a very quick overview of what's going to happen in easy copywriting. If you've bought this as part of the course, then click on to the next video and I'll just see you there. And if you're watching this on YouTube as a sort of trailer, click on the link below this video and you'll be able to get the rest of the course, and we'll talk about each of those in more detail. So see you there.